Welcome to Millennium TV 24 News. I am Kim Seabrook. And in downtown stores today, business await their customers' return. In many downtown areas where companies close their offices and commuting grounds to a halt, sandwich shops, bakeries, and other small businesses are waiting with guarded optimism for their customers to return. Teresa Ging could count on a steady stream of office workers coming to Sugar Bliss Bakery for muffins and cupcakes before the COVID-19. They all but disappeared when the Loop, Chicago's downtown area, became deserted amid government stay-at-home orders. In March, a local business group, the Chicago Loop Aliens, found in a survey that a year into the pandemic, the number of people coming downtown for work was still below 20% of normal. But Jing is optimistic. Some of her regular customers have returned to their office 1 to 2 days a week. I definitely think the Loop will return back to normal at some point, she says, although she doesn't expect that to happen before 2022. The next few months will be an uneasy time in business districts across the country. With cities reopening and more people vaccinated, office workers are expected to return, especially with big companies like Goldman Sachs and Bank of America notifying staffers that they'll need to return to work. But many businesses are expected to give their employees the flexibility to work from home. And some companies have permanently closed their offices and gone fully remote. That will keep small businesses owners waiting and wondering with varying degrees of optimism. When people began working at home, early morning and lunchtime crowds turned into a trickle. Many restaurants and stores went out of business, and those that survived relied on government help, concessions from landlords, and, when possible, selling online to shore up their revenue. Even downtown Atlanta is filled with office towers, and businesses typically expect to get a boost from visitors to Mercedes-Benz, the stadium, the city's convention center, and tourist attractions. There is just a fraction of that traffic nowadays, and city officials have yet to say when Atlanta will fully reopen. Quan's Deli lost about 80% of its business, reduced its hours, and laid off its 2 full-time employees, as well as its handful part-timers. But co-owner Andrew is optimistic. Even if the number of office workers doesn't return to pre-pandemic levels, the deli will be able to survive as hotel guests, convention goers, and tourists come back. Quote, as we are in our personal lives return to normal, there's sort of an understanding that the rest of the country will as well. He said there's definitely some hopefulness. And that is that news. And next we have 2 arson suspects detained in Los Angeles wildfire. A smoky wildfire churning through a Los Angeles Canyon community gained strength Sunday as about 1,000 residents remained under evacuation orders, while others were warned they should get ready to leave. There was zero containment. No structures have been damaged and no injuries have been reported in the wildfire that broke out late Friday in Santa Monica Mountains. Vegetation in the area is very dry and hasn't burned in more than 50 years. The cause of the fire near Topanga State Park has been deemed suspicious and is under investigation. 2 suspects were detained for questioning. Officers charged in death of Daunte Wright to appear in court. A former suburban Minneapolis police officer charged with second-degree manslaughter for fatally shooting 20-year-old black motorist Daunte Wright is scheduled to appear in court via video conference on Monday. Former Brooklyn Center officer Kim Potter, who is white, has an Arminius hearing, also known as a pretrial hearing, on Monday afternoon in Hennepin County. The purpose of such a hearing is to go over evidence and determine if there's probable cause for the case to proceed. Wright, the father of a young son, was killed April 11th after a traffic stop. The former Brooklyn Center police chief has said he believes Potter meant to use her taser on Wright instead of her handgun. Body camera video shows her shouting "taser" multiple times before firing. The shooting ignited days of unrest. Wright's family members and protesters have wanted prosecutors to file murder charges. The shooting happened amid the trial for Derek Chauvin, the white former Minneapolis police officer who was convicted of murder for pressing his knee against George Floyd's neck as the black man said he couldn't breathe. Police said Wright was pulled over for expired tags, but they sought to arrest him after discovering an outstanding warrant. The warrant was for his failure to appear in court on charges that he fled from officers and had a gun without a permit during an encounter with the Minneapolis police. And that was in June. Police body camera video shows Potter approaching Wright as he stands outside of his car as another officer is arresting him. As Wright struggles with police, Potter shouts, "I'll tase you, I'll tase you, taser, taser," before firing a single shot from a handgun in her right hand. The criminal complaint noted that Potter holstered her handgun on the right side and her taser on the left, both with their grips facing rearward. To remove the taser, which is yellow and has a black grip, Potter would have to use her left hand, the complaint said. Intent isn't a necessary component of second-degree manslaughter in Minnesota. The charge, which carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison, can be applied in circumstances where a person is suspected of causing a death by culpable negligence. That creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes chances to cause a death. The Wright family attorney Ben Crump has disputed that the shooting was accidental, arguing that an experienced officer knows the difference between a taser and a handgun. Experts say cases of officers mistakenly firing the gun instead of a taser are rare, usually less than once a year nationwide. Brooklyn Center was moving forward, firing Potter when she resigned shortly after the shooting, and the city's police chief also resigned after the city council fired the city manager. All right. And Microsoft investigated Gates before he left the board. Board members at Microsoft Corp made a decision in 2020 that it wasn't appropriate for its co-founder, Bill Gates, to continue sitting on its board as they investigated the billionaire's prior romantic relationship with a female Microsoft employee that was deemed inappropriate. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, citing unnamed sources, the Journal reported online Sunday that the board members looking into the matter hired a law firm in late 2019 to conduct an investigation after a Microsoft engineer alleged in a letter that she had a sexual relationship with Gates over several years. It also reported that Gates resigned before the board's investigation was finished, citing another person familiar with the matter. An unnamed spokeswoman for Gates acknowledged to us that there was an affair almost 20 years ago and that it had ended amicably. The spokesperson also told us that his decision to transition off the board was in no way related to this matter. When he left Microsoft's board last year, Gates said he was stepping down to focus on philanthropy. In an email sent to us late Sunday, Microsoft said that it received a concern in the latter half of 2019 that Bill Gates sought to initiate an intimate relationship with a company employee in the year 2000. A committee of the board reviewed the concern, aided by an outside law firm, to conduct a thorough investigation. Throughout the investigation, Microsoft provided extensive support to the employee who raised the concern. Earlier this month, Bill and Melinda Gates announced that they were divorcing after 27 years of marriage, but will keep working together at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, one of the largest charitable foundations in the world. Gates was formerly the world's richest person, and his fortune is estimated at well over $100 billion. An arrest was made after a boy 4 years old found slain on the Dallas street. Dallas police says an 18-year-old man has been arrested after the body of a 4-year-old boy was found lying on a neighborhood street in Dallas. Police said that Darian Brown has been charged with kidnapping and theft. Police say they also anticipate additional charges pending the results of a forensic analysis. Brown was being held Sunday in Dallas County Jail on $750,000 bond. Police received a call that there was a child dead in the street around 6:50 a.m. Saturday. A police official has said it appears the child suffered a violent death and that an edge weapon was used. Cyprus president unveils ambitious economic stimulus plan. Cyprus president on Monday unveiled a $4.4 billion economic stimulus plan, which he describes as the most ambitious ever in the country's 61 years history in an independent republic. Nikos Anastasiou said that the five-pronged plan is projected to add 7% to the gross domestic product over the next 5 years and at least 11,000 new jobs in the European Union member country with a population of approximately 875,000. The plan, the next day, is a courageous step forward and a new and necessary development model for the future. Anastasiou said it's the roadmap for the post-COVID-19 era. He also said that the plan would draw 1.2 billion euros in funding from the EU Approved Recovery and Resilience Program. That's 1.8 billion euros from the EU structural and investment funds, as well as a projected 1.4 billion euros in private investment or collaborations between the private and public sectors. The plan will channel funding to 5 broad areas: public health, boosting the green economy, bolstering competitiveness, conversion into a digital economy, and investing in human capital. Although short on details, Anastasiou offers several examples of how the plan will unfold. For instance, the plan foresees modernizing and upgrading all public and private hospitals, including purchasing new medical equipment, and on promoting environmentally friendly energy generation. The plan includes making schools and public buildings more energy self-sufficient through the installation of photovoltaic panels, funding programs to encourage small and middle-sized businesses to become less energy wasteful, and developing a grid for the use of electric cars. Research and development will receive a boost. Red tape will be cut by simplifying online procedures to obtain business and other licenses. Local government will be streamlined, and the tourism sector, which definitely contributes 13% to the Cypriot economy, will be re-energized. Anastasiou said authorities will redouble their effort to root out corruption, as his government has faced much criticism over its malign citizenship for investment program. The investment program, which required wealthy investors to sink at least 2.5 million euros into the Cypriot economy to obtain a passport, was scrapped last year when an undercover news reported exposed a top lawmaker and a parliamentary speaker allegedly promising to circumvent the program's rules for a fictitious Chinese investor convicted of fraud. Cyprus goes to polls May 30th to elect a new parliament, although the election will have no bearing on Anastasiou's presidential tenure, which ends in 2013. Supreme Court to waive rollback of abortion rights. The Supreme Court agreed Monday to consider a major rollback of abortion rights, saying it will decide whether states can ban abortions before a fetus can survive outside the womb. The court's order sets up a slowdown over abortion, probably in the fall, with the more conservative court seeming ready to dramatically alter nearly 50 years of rulings on abortion rights. The court first announced a woman's constitutional right to an abortion in the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision and reaffirmed it 19 years later. The case involves a Mississippi law that would prohibit abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. The state's ban had been blocked by lower courts as inconsistent with Supreme Court precedent that protects a woman's right to obtain an abortion before the fetus can survive outside her womb. The justices had put off action for the case for several months. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an abortion rights proponent, died just before the court's new term began in October. Her replacement, Justice Amy Coney, is the most open opponent of abortion rights to join the court in decades. Barrett is one of the 3 appointments of former President Donald Trump on the Supreme Court, and the other 2, Justice Neal and Brett Kavanaugh, voted in dissent last year. And we're going to go into a quick break, and we'll be right back on Millennium TV 24. 88% of children covered by monthly payments starting in July will receive benefits without their parents needing to take any additional action. Qualified families will receive a payment of up to $300 per month for each child under 6 and up to $250 per month for children between the ages of 6 and 17. The child tax credit was previously capped at $2,000 and only paid out to families with income tax obligations after they filed with the IRS. But for this year, couples earning $150,000 or less can receive the full payments on the 15th of each month, in most cases by direct deposit. The benefits totaling $3,600 annually for children under 6 and $3,000 for those who are older. The IRS will determine eligibility based on the 2019 and 2020 tax years, but people will also be able to update their status through an online portal. The administration is also setting up another online portal for non-filers who might be eligible for the child tax credit. The president has proposed an extension of the increased child tax credit through 2025 as part of his $1.8 trillion families plan. Outside analysts estimate that the payments could essentially have child poverty. The expanded credits could also roughly $100 billion a year. And let's see, $100 billion a year, that's really good. Get them child tax credits. And an EU vows to boost efforts to end Israeli-Palestine fighting. On Tuesday, the EU also called the weekend destruction of a building housing major in international media extremely worrying and said the safe working conditions for journalists were essential, and the UE has never had the impact Washington can wield in the region, and no immediate breakthrough was expected from Tuesday's meeting. Ever since the outbreak of violence last week, the EU has been calling for restraint and condemned attacks that hit civilian populations. Because the EU policy toward the region requires unanimity among the 27 EU member nations, its actions and statements haven't had the impact that could be expected from a bloc that has large trade and aid interests in the region. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell and European Council President Michael both called over the past days to call for an end to the escalation and violence and ensure that the civilians get the best possible protection. Tuesday's meeting is to seek how the best the EU can contribute to diffusing the tensions, stop the escalation, and stop the ongoing violence. EU Peter spokesman said the pro-Palestinian critics of EU policy insist that the bloc has been far too lenient when it comes to imposing sanctions on Jerusalem, but since this too requires unanimity, the issue hasn't yet surfaced for Tuesday's meeting. Let's not jump ahead, Stano said. Let's focus on trying to diffuse the situation, trying to solve the situation to normal diplomatic and political means. The fighting broke out last week when the Hamas militant group fired long-range rockets at Jerusalem after weeks of clashes in the city between Palestinian protesters and Israeli police. The protests were focused on the heavy-handed policing of a flashpoint sacred site during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and the threatened eviction of dozens of Palestinian families by Jewish settlers. Since then, the Israeli military has launched hundreds of airstrikes that it says they are targeting Hamas militant infrastructure, and the Palestinian militants in Gaza have fired more than 3,100 rockets into Israel. At least 198 Palestinians have been killed in the strikes, including 58 children and 35 women, with 1,300 people wounded. And 8 people in Israel have been killed in the rocket attacks launched from Gaza, including a 5-year-old boy and a soldier. In entertainment, poet Carl Phillips wins $75,000 Jackson Prize, and he received that $75,000 honor for a body of work which displays exceptional talent. On Monday, poets and writers announced that the 61-year-old Phillips has won the Jackson Prize, which in previous years has gone to Elizabeth Alexander, Claudia Rankine, and current U.S. poet laureate Joe Harjo, among others. Phillips' 15 books of poetry include Wild as the Wind, Pale Colors in the Teal Field, and In the Blood. Phillips, 61, is a native of Everett, Washington, and currently a professor of English at Washington University in St. Louis. His previous awards include the Los Angeles Times Book Prize and the Kenyon Review Award. Phillips is a love poet. He wants to know what one human has to do with another, what one owes another, and how all of this translates into the desire and the capacity to inspire moral or immoral reactions. Prize judges Carolyn Forsch, Juan Felipe Herrera wrote in their citation, Poets and Writers, founded in 1970 as a nonprofit organization with a mission to foster the professional development of poets and writers, to promote communication throughout the literary community, and to help create an environment in which literature can be appreciated by the wildest possible public. And AT&T Discovery joined media brands as Cord Cutters and Croach. AT&T will join its media operations with those run by Discovery to create a new company in a $43 billion deal that runs in CNN, HBO, TNT, and TBS, and more. With the agreement, Monday, AT&T is easing back from years-long push into a streaming entertainment sector where big players are slugging it out with increasingly large war chests dedicated to premium and original content. The newly formed and publicly traded company will enter a streaming arena that has been flooded in the past with 2 years with new players, including those owned by AT&T and Discovery, which operate HBO Max and Discovery Plus, respectively. It is a major directional shift for AT&T, which squared off with the Justice Department less than 3 years ago in an antitrust fight when it wanted to acquire Time Warner Inc. for more than $80 billion. That was a fight to expand into entertainment that AT&T won, and it's not immediately clear what the new company would mean for customers, but it will likely allow the bundling of streaming services. For example, Disney offers its viewers Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. A standalone streaming service for CNN is also a possibility. The combined media company will still be outsized by rival streaming services. HBO Max and HBO have a combined global subscriber base of about 63.9 million, and Discovery Plus has about 15 million subscribers. That compares with Netflix, which has more than 200 million subscribers worldwide, and Disney Plus, which counts over 100 million. Still, some media analysts say that by joining forces, the company will be better able to compete. When they acquired Time Warner, the vision was to have this kind of mega company that will have a seamless backbone between the content side and the broadband side. Tuna Moby also added that vision clearly has not panned out. AT&T has a massive debt load and needs to invest more money as it builds out next generation 5G wireless networks, and wireless is its core business. It said Monday that it's planned to increase capital investments for 5G and the fiber internet. The new company will be in direct competition with Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Disney, and Comcast, which are assembling a growing arsenal of original media content. The new company will be able to cut costs by $3 billion annually, the company said, and that money that could go towards original streaming content. It will house almost 200,000 hours of programming and bring together more than 100 brands under one global portfolio, including DC Comics, Cartoon Network, Eurosport, Magnolia, TLC, and Animal Planet. That likely means layoffs as companies consolidate. The deal is expected to close by the middle of next year, but still needs approval from Discovery shareholders. AT&T stockholders don't need to vote on the transaction, and the shares of Discovery Inc. jumped 3% to 36.73 Monday. AT&T shares rose 4% to 33.51. Andrea Meza of Mexico is crowned 69th Miss Universe. And Meza of Mexico has been crowned Miss Universe, who has a software engineering degree, beat out Miss Brazil at the end of the night, screaming Sunday when the announcer shouted, "Viva Mexico!" Previous winners, Zobini, had the crown on Meza's head and waited to make sure it would stay in place as Meza beamed and took her first walk into the front of the stage. Tunzi, a public relations professional who became the first black woman from South Africa to win the contest, had held the title since December 2019. The 69th pageant was held at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida. And next, Florida's amusement parks are loosening pandemic mask requirements. So in Florida, the major amusement parks are adjusting their face mask policies after the federal government loosened its recommendations. As more people get vaccinated for the coronavirus, things are opening up. Visitors to Walt Disney World and Universal Studios Orlando were allowed Saturday to remove their masks when they are outdoors, except when they are on attractions, in line, or riding transportation. Masks remain mandatory indoors, except in restaurants when seated, and Disney requires that they be worn except when eating and drinking. SeaWorld Orlando and its sister park, Tampa's Busch Gardens, are going even further, allowing guests who say they are fully vaccinated to remove their masks throughout the parks. And in sports, Derek Jeter sells Tampa mansion Tom Brady has been renting. Former New York Yankees superstar Derek Jeter has sold his waterfront mansion in Tampa for $22.5 million, meaning Tom Brady and his family will have to find some new digs. The 7-bedroom, 8-bath home was sold on Friday, and a real estate firm that handled the transaction did not disclose the buyer, and the sale had not been yet recorded Monday by Hillsborough County. That process that can take several days, and Brady has been renting the mansion since April 2020. Shortly after the star quarterback signed with the Tampa Buccaneers, and Jeter and his family moved out after he became a part owner and CEO of the Miami Marlins in 2017. And last but not least, broadcaster Marv Albert retiring after NBA East Finals. Marv Albert is retiring after the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals, ending a broadcasting career spanning nearly 60 years. Albert will call a series for TNT. He has been with Turner Sports for 22 years and 19 NBA plays announcer. Albert was known for his signature "Yes." Call turns 80 next month, and he's covered everything from football and boxing to hockey, baseball, tennis. But he is linked to mostly to basketball, having called 13 NBA Finals, 25 All-Star games. The Dream Team romped to the gold medal in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. And there's no voice more closely associated with NBA basketball than Marv Albert. And the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said in a statement released Monday by Turner Sports. Albert began his Hall of Fame career in 1963 in radio, becoming the voice of the New York Rangers in '65 and the Knicks 2 years later. He began doing Knicks games on TV for MSG Network in 1986. And he also called 8 Super Bowls, 8 Stanley Cup Finals. And he says, "My 55 years of broadcasting the NBA has just been fortunate to work with so many wonderful and talented people. And now I have the opportunity to hone my gardening skills and work on my ballroom dancing." And this is Kim Seabrook, and this is your news for today. And you are watching Millennium TV 24. And please make sure to tune in. Download the apps on your iPhone, your Android. Watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and your Amazon Fire Stick. Again, I'm Kim Seabrook. Thank you for tuning in to Millennium TV 24 News, and we'll see you next time.